Want to achieve network marketing success? Then you're in the right company. Hello, and welcome to Leave Nothing to Chance, hosted by networking marketing giant John Solider. Learn everything you need to know about the network marketing space from somebody who's actually done it. Join us every week for front row seats as we feature some of the finest and most successful personalities in network marketing. Leave nothing to chance. Join us now.
Well, hey, listen, we've done now well over 100 shows on leaving nothing to chance. And we get requests sometimes. People hear speakers and they write to me or they text me or they WhatsApp me or any of the other crazy ways. They send me carrier pigeon messages. Some of the older people like me, Simon, that's what they do. We use carrier pigeon still. It's an old technology. And they say, hey, can you get this guy or this lady back on again? So we've kind of been going through that. And Simon Chan was so popular the first time that I reached out to him. And he's an incredibly busy guy. And you'll hear a little bit about that today. He's the author of a great book on consistency. And the endorsements on this book are a who's who of network marketing, needless to say. And it's a great book. I use it in my distributorship to help train people. And you should too. But Simon speaks all over the world. I know this past weekend he was off training a group of distributors, and he's a busy guy. He's a great dad. He's got young sons that are great baseball players with lots of aspirations. So he's busy doing travel ball with them, as well as a husband, father of one dog or two dogs.
One dog.
One dog. I got three now. I don't know what we're thinking, Simon, but we'll talk about that another time. But anyway, super busy guy, super great leader in our industry, and he's got such great insights. So we just thought today, this is Simon's idea, that we would just chat rather than me having my standardized questions, that we would just kind of chat about things. So Simon, I'll throw the ball to you and let you get rolling.
Well, thank you for having me here. Wow, I'm impressed people want me back. Must be my good looks or my weird accent, the weird voice. Something must be going well.
Well, you're doing something right. Could be that lack of energy that you have. It could be that everybody's saying, "Hey, maybe." Of course, I'm exaggerating. But Simon, let's just talk about a couple of things. Consistency is something that you teach so well on, and you speak so much about. But why is it important that people are consistent, whether they want to be a great distributor, like most of our listeners do, they want to be successful in their own business, certainly, or they want to be a great baseball player, or they want to be a great accountant or lawyer or doctor or a plumber, for that matter? Why is consistency so important?
Well, if you look at the way we learn, if you look at how we learn things, right? Because I think everyone who listens to this, they know consistency is important. But we learn not by doing a lot at one time, right? So if you want to, say, cook, right? So say I can't cook, but if you want to come over to my house, I'm just going to cook you dinner, and I don't really cook. All of a sudden, I spend all this time, 5 hours, just studying and preparing this meal. It's probably not going to turn out that great. But if I start to say, John, you're coming over in a month, and I start practicing every single day, practicing cooking a little bit, I'll get good at it, right? It's just like a kid learning how to ride a bike. They don't learn all of a sudden, hey, go practice for 6 hours and learn to ride a bike. No, but the kid's on the bike for 10 minutes a day, within a week or 2 weeks, the kid's going to learn how to ride a bike. And so, that's the way we learn, and you're applying to your business. You're never going to be good at whatever strategy or skill you need if you lack that consistency. And most people in our world, we want instant gratification. So they say, oh, I'm just going to do a lot at one time. That's like, trying to learn to ride a bike. I'm going to go in 5 hours and master the bike, and then don't touch the bike in another month. The kid's not going to learn. But if you do a little bit each day, it's, Darren Hardy wrote that book, The Compound Effect. It compounds. And I always have a saying, success is invisible. You do it a little bit today, you may not think you got better, but you did get better. But over time, that compounds dramatically. And I'll give you one example, since we all talk about the baseball, and my first page in the book is about baseball. So, and you play sports, with baseball, the swing is always something constantly adjustment. And my oldest son, he's pretty good, right? He's pretty good, very, very good for his age, and we have big dreams for him. And lately we've been working. And then last year he was pretty good. Last year he got selected to be one of the top kids in 11 years old to play in this tournament in Florida. And so we went there, and he did okay. He was the youngest kid. Some kids were like a year older, but he hung in there. He hit 400. He hung in there. And then I just showed him like last week, and I was shocked because we were working on the swing. If you look back at the videos from a year ago, the swing was pretty terrible compared to now. But we never even realized it. That just came from working every day, and we hit 7 days a week. We're even on vacations, we bring a swinging bat and just do 20 swings in the parking lot, right? We're just constantly working on that. So it's like, why is consistency important? Because that's how we learn. If you want to get good at something, you have to do it a little bit each day, all the time, 7 days a week. And you're going to discover you may not see the improvement right away, but 3-6 months later, looking back, you're like, oh my goodness, I got a lot better.
You take somebody like let's stay to sports for a few minutes. Most of our people are sports fans, and even if you're not, I'll just, for everybody who isn't, let's talk about Shohei Ohtani for a minute.
Mm.
So here's a guy that since Babe Ruth, roughly 100 years ago, this guy's done stuff that nobody but Babe Ruth did, in the respect that he is a world-class pitcher and he's a world-class hitter. As the season ends, he had 40-plus home runs. He got injured at the end of the year, of course, but I think 40-plus home runs, 90, 95 RBIs. I think he was 10-4 or 10-6 or whatever, pitching-wise. And you take a guy like that, what do you think his day, when he was a kid, when he was starting, right? Just like a starting distributor, what do you think he did on a daily basis in his sport to achieve not one, but two separate distinctions where he is one of, if not the best in the world?
I personally don't know about Shohei's childhood, but I'll tell you, I'm a I'm a fan of Shohei Ohtani, but I'm a huge fan of Ichiro Suzuki, who was the mentor, like an idol. He was the first Japanese positional player that came over and did really, really well, right? People at that time thought, generations change, but back then people, and this is something that inspires me, being an Asian American, I had to deal with a lot of racism growing up. I played college basketball, but just because of my skin and my slanted eyes, I was always the one who picked last. So when Ichiro Suzuki came in the league, and that time there was like, oh, Asians are great pitchers. They can pitch because you have Hideo Nomo, Chan Ho Park, but they're not strong enough. They're not durable to play every day, right? So Ichiro came over in 2001. He was like 27 years old already, and he totally destroyed those myths and won a batting title. He actually has the record for most hits in the season. And if you look at him, he is only like 5'11", 160, 170 pounds. Not a big guy. Shohei's a pretty big guy, but Ichiro is kind of like the mentor of mentors to all these Japanese players coming over now. So when Ichiro, I read his biography. So he was not a big, strong kid, but since he loved baseball since he was young, his dad would practice with him starting at 4 years old every single day after school. They would hit, and he talked about the routine. You do fly balls, do grounders, and then they would play catch for like an hour and a half, 2 hours every day after school, even when it was cold. And he talked about those days where he didn't want to practice because he's young, and his dad would drag him there, right? His dad realized at 4 he wanted to be good. And then he would go home and eat dinner, do schoolwork. And after schoolwork, he would go to the batting cage. You go to the local batting cage in Japan and do another 300 hits. And he did that for like 10, 15 years. Basically, when he was 4 years old, until he went to high school, he went to a boarding school. For an 8-9 year period, his dad would work with him every day after school for an hour and a half, 2 hours, eat dinner, do his homework, and then go hit for another 300, which is like another hour of hitting every single day. Mike Trout, the inspiration I got to work with my kid, and Ichiro, by the way, side note, since you listen to our sports fans, all 3 of my boys are righties, but they bat left because of Ichiro. Okay, so and then Mike Trout, when I first my son got into baseball, my friend told me Mike Trout's dad made him do 75 swings a day because he lived in New Jersey, it was cold, in the basement. 75 swings every single day, 75 swings, and since he was a kid. So getting back to your question, if you look at all the greats, it's never like one big moment they become great. It's the process, right? Nick Saban in Alabama talks about the process. And to be successful, you have to understand that the process could be boring. But you got to, how badly do you want it? You want success? You got to go through that process. The process could be very boring. The process is also could be very challenging. It's not going to be fun. Like my son right now is going through that process where we want to play at a higher level. So he is 12 and playing on the 14-year-old team, right? And with kids that hit puberty, they're a lot stronger. He's also using a much heavier bat because we're planning ahead. We know when 3 years from now, when other kids are starting to get used to a BB core bat, he's been using it for 2-3 years already, right? So he's embracing. I'm teaching and he normally hits pretty well, but he doesn't have the power, the bat speed as much now, but he's thinking long term. Right. And we started doing that 2 years ago. Even right now, he can handle the bat. He's not awesome with the bat, but some kids are not even close to that. But it's the process. You got to embrace the struggle. Without struggle, there's no success. And the process could be boring. And, one of the best books I ever read it's a boring book. It's talking about process. It's called Talent is Overrated by Jeff Goven. And he talked about all the greats, whether it's Kobe Bryant, whether it's Roger Federer, whether it's Mozart, all these, or the Beatles, right? All these greatest in any industry, they had to go through the process, which is very boring and miserable. And you know what? We like to say being an entrepreneur is very exciting. Yeah, but it's exciting when you get the rewards. But when you're in the grind, it's not fun. People think that, prospecting, doing presentations, doing calls, it's fun. Like I used to think like leaders are different because I'm shy, quiet, right? And like I'm an introvert, and certain types of people love to talk. And I learned, no, the successful people like you, John, you also don't like to make sales calls and stuff, but you do it anyway, right? You do it anyway. And you go because you understand that's the process. You got to do it every single day. And no matter how good you are, you still got to do it a little bit every day because it keeps your skills sharp. And I know you're going to cut me off, whatever. But talent is overrated. Just talk about every top performer. They understood consistency and going through that process. The process is boring. And I keep saying the process is boring because in social media now, you see a lot of people, being an entrepreneur is great and stuff. And I remember one time Gary Vee says, entrepreneurship is hard. It can cause depression. People become suicidal. It's hard. If you can't handle that process, then and you can of course be there's a lot of things to help you with gratitude, learn to enjoy the moment, enjoy that moment. So whatever struggle you are right now, enjoy this moment, because when you have that success, it's not success is a letdown. The thrill is in the pursuit. And as I think back to my I built a 7-figure business in network marketing. It's not the awards I got. I even took away my awards and put them away, the trophies, whatever. I was the number one fastest growing. None of that matters, right? But what matters is knowing that back in 2005, I was sitting at midnight, sitting in the park, in the business park in Santa Monica, making phone calls to Malaysia because my fiance was, I couldn't take it to hearing my voice in the tiny 1-bedroom apartment. I was like, you got to leave. I cannot hear you making another call again, saying the same thing over and over again. So I was taking prepaid phone cards, hoping they don't expire, calling Malaysia out because of the time zone difference. I was calling them at midnight in Malaysia at 3 p.m., calling prospects, talking about that. That gives me enjoyment, fulfillment, right? Going through that. And then my apartment at that time was so hot. I didn't have AC. And then I couldn't open the window because I was living on South Bundy Drive, where it was like a busy intersection. You hear buses. It would be so loud, like I couldn't even hear the prospects, right? So I'll close the doors, but it would be hot in there, and I would just thank goodness there was no Zoom. I'll be prospecting without a shirt on, just calling in like an underwear. I was just calling because it's so hot in that room. But sharing those stories, that's what makes the journey. Right? It's like that. Then, and thinking back, that was one of my favorite times as being an entrepreneur. Not when I got the award, not when I got the money. It's when, wow, those are good times. Prospecting when it's in the heat, sweat over my face, calling, midnight, making those calls to Malaysia, not knowing what the heck was going to in Kuala Lumpur, first time, not knowing what the heck to do. And it was just like a fish out of water trying to set up meetings. Those are the fun times. So, it could be boring if you don't enjoy the moment, right? Well, the process, enjoy the moment and be grateful for that moment that you're in.
Malcolm Gladwell in his book about the tipping point that I read years ago talks about 10,000 repetitions.
Hmm.
And I've heard track coaches say this. I've heard wrestling coaches say this. I'm sure baseball coaches say this. I'm sure every sports coach in the world says this. But applying that to network marketing, to your point, right? I mean, I don't know how many presentations I've done in 41 years. Okay,
Oh, you definitely done more.
but
Yeah.
probably 10,000 at least, probably more.
Well, he said, wait, he didn't say 10,000, 10,000. He said 10,000 hours. So
10,000
that's
hours.
more
Right.
than 10,000 presentations.
Yeah,
10,000,
exactly.
not 10,000 swings, 10,000 hours.
You know, and to that point, we're watching the U.S. Open a couple of weeks ago, and we're watching Djokovic play Medvedev, and we're watching these guys hitting the ball. I don't know I don't know the clockage on it when they hit the ball back and forth, but I know it's over 100 miles an hour on the serve alone, right? Because they put that clock up, and my wife says to me, "God, they make it look easy." I said, "Yeah, you know how long they've been doing it." You know, to that point. So that's once again how it applies back to our business. I'd love your thoughts on that, Simon. And also, to your point, it's the grind that makes us great. It's not the moment. The moment is when we shine and everybody applauds and they give us a trophy or a plaque or, you know, a big check or something. You know, that's the payoff, so to speak. But it's that grind when you're sitting on the park bench in Santa Monica, calling overseas, hoping people answer the phone, hoping they're receptive to what it is that you're pitching, right? That's what grew you into Simon Chan, author, speaker, great dad, great husband, everything else. That was what made you you. Talk about that a little bit, because that's where people, I think, get bogged down in network marketing. I think that's where they have a challenge, is they don't realize that, you know, when we talk about the legends in our industry, and there's a lot of them, and there's a lot of people who have been super successful, as we both know, but there's a lot more people who failed. That differential between the guy or the gal or the couple that makes it that we know their name. If I said, you know, certain names, you go, oh yeah, you know, I know them from this company or that company, versus the person who was so close but they gave up. How do they not give up when they're sitting on that park bench having all that self-doubt and is saying to themselves, why in the world am I could just go get a job and somebody will pay me to, you know, show up and do something, but they stick it out and they become that legendary distributor. What's that difference? How do you teach that difference? How do they see that difference in themselves?
Well, I want to add one thing. Okay, that's a great question. First of all, for those who, getting back to the 10,000 hours, this will put it in better perspective. Is that if you work the business 8 hours a day, 8 hours a day, right, and you do it for 52 weeks, now no vacations, nothing, 8 hours a day, so you're doing 40-hour weeks in the business, which most people are not, right, because you're part time. That gives you only, well, I just did the math, 40 hours times 52. That gives you 2,000 hours a year. So you're talking about you're working 40 hours. And if you got to do that for 5 years to hit that 10,000 mark. Right. And they've done, in that book, they talked about if you do 1,000, you talk about someone like a piano, right? If you do 1,000, you're a decent piano teacher. You're decent in piano. Right. So if you practice 1 hour a day and you practice for 2,000 hours, 2,000 days, you're decent in piano. But if you hit 2,000 hours, again, practicing piano 8 hours a day for 52 straight weeks, you're good enough to be a piano teacher to teach little kids. But if you want to be the elite, as a minimum of 10,000 hours. And then, you know, when I was a kid, I hated piano, right? But my parents forced it on me. I remember my piano teacher we started with like a normal piano teacher, which is like the $2,000 hours piano teacher for kids. And then when I got good enough, my parents, you got to get a better teacher. And I remember this guy called Zhu Daming. He was like from an immigrant from China, came over. He studied at Juilliard. He practiced like 10 hours a day. And I'm like, what the heck? You practice 10 hours a day? And I was like, I'm in school the whole time. You're still practicing? Yeah, I practice. The only time I'm not practicing is eating, and I, come down for lessons with you. But otherwise, he's practicing 10 hours a day. And that's why he was worried. Now he would, he was traveling, doing concerts and stuff. He was paid, people paid to hear him play. So as a network marketer, think about this. I know, John, you definitely exceeded your 10,000. You're probably about 100,000 hours, and I've definitely exceeded that. But if you say you want to be the best, you got to put in the time. And it's consistent time. consistency. So getting back to your question is like, why do most people fail, and why they can't even do the 10,000 hours, or you talk about 100 hours, right? They can't even do that. It all goes back, success, 95% of success is up here, is your mindset. Right? And most people get it wrong. They think they need skills and then they'll be successful. But if you have skills but the wrong mindset, you're never going to be successful. But if you have the right mindset but no skills, like me, like a lot of other people, you would be successful. And the mindset is how you see yourself, right? So when I first started, John, like it took me a long time to get it. Like I just didn't see like why you have to talk about the mindset training. And the funny thing is, if you ask most people, like what type of training you need, what will they say? They'll say, I need to learn how to sell the product. I need to be a better presenter, better communicator, better social media. They would never say I need a better attitude and mindset, right? And the people who say they don't need it are the ones that need it the most, ironically, right? But they would say, I need skills. I need to learn to sell the product. I need to know the product better. No, you don't. You need better mindset, because if you have the right mindset, everything falls in place. So I'll give an example. The mindset I'm talking about is you got to believe, you got to have 100% certainty you're destined for success. And you are that leader already. And you got to, and my mentor, Robert Allen, he said, you got to be before you become. Right? Robert, I'm best-selling author, well-renowned speaker. Be before you become. And I didn't understand that. So how can you be a leader before you become a leader? That's nonsense. How can you? And he's like, you're not lying. You're faith it till you make it. You got to start acting like the leader. Like going back to Shohei Ohtani, right? When he first started in MLB, he didn't say, I'm going to see if I can fit in. He's like, I'm the big dog. I want to crush it. I want to make it happen. I want to be the first two-way player since Babe Ruth. He didn't say, I'm going to hope to see if I can do this. Right? He didn't say, well, let me test things out in the minors a little bit. And then if I do well, then I'll give it a try. No, he's like, I'm a two-way player. In fact, I'm a Yankee fan. I'm sorry. I know you're a Red Sox fan.
But no, I'm a Yankee fan. No. Lifelong Yankee fan. Come on. I grew up in New Jersey.
Forgive me. Oh, my goodness.
I lost a bet to a Red Sox fan who works for our company. That's what you're thinking of. And I had to wear.
The Red Sox fan.
We were at a incentive trip, and I had to wear a Red Sox hat. I mean, that was like in the old days, Simon, when they used to make hats for people and they put lead on the people's head, and then the people wind up going crazy. That was like, my wife kept saying to me, she goes, you want to take that hat off? I know, but I made a deal and I lost. And so I've been mad at the Steinbrenner family for the last year because I had to wear that darn hat. So yeah. Well, anyway, I need to clear that up because that's like sacrilege, man. Yeah, I bleed pinstripes like you do.
Yeah, awesome. I actually have won my Ichiro Suzuki. I got so excited. I finally found on eBay a Yankees road of Ichiro, because he was on the Yankees for 2 years.
That's right.
But there wasn't. So I actually have a home Yankees of Ichiro and a road one of Ichiro, but they were not easy to find. It took me like 2 years, 3 years for one to pop up on eBay. And I just got it like a week ago. But anyway, getting back to the Steinbrenner fan, I mean, one of my, my couple group of my friends who I grew up all Yankee fans, we were very angry at Cashman Steinbrenner because they did not let Ohtani be a dual player. They only wanted him to be a hitter, right? But Ohtani didn't say, well, let me go and sign up the Yankees, the most famous, and I'm going to be a hitter, and I'm going to try out pitching. No, he came out and said, hey, I'm a pitcher and a hitter in this league, and that's the only way. If you don't let me do that, I'm not going to sign with your team. And that's basically what he did in the Yankees, right? And all my friends said, oh, my God, the Yankees are so dumb. They should have given him the chance. He'll be a Yankee now instead of the Angels. So that's called like certainty, right? Everyone who's successful, they had certainty. Michael Jordan has certainty. Kobe Bryant has certainty. Like, I'm going to be a superstar. Most network marketers don't have certainty. They're like, I'm going to try it out. I'm going to see if I have results. If I was like you, John, if I made like $1,000 a month, it'd be easy for me to convince people. That's totally a lie, because if you make $1,000 a month, you'd be still scared to approach a doctor because $1,000 a month is nothing. And you say to yourself, if I make $10,000 a month, I'll be easier to convince people. Every leader, whether it's me or John, when you were starting, you had no results, right? Every leader had 0 results when they got started, but they know that they're selling their certainty and their confidence. And people buy the confidence. And that confidence comes from your vision and how you see yourself. You act like a leader, right? And even leaders who switch companies, when they switch companies, there's no certainty they're going to make money. There's no certainty that company's going to last, but they have, I'm the leader. They kind of trick themselves. They have the faith, right? It's like Shohei Ohtani. He may have totally failed, but he had the faith. I'm going to be the best. I'm going to be the best since the Babe Ruth, the only two-way player since in the last 100 years. He had that confidence and faith. And that's what you need. That's what the mindset training is. And I know it's difficult for some. I mean, for you, John, you're a great wrestler. So you say, if I could do this, I can do that, right? When you were born, you didn't know how to wrestle, but you learned. If you learn how to wrestle, hey, you're going to learn how to do network marketing. That was for me too. It's like, hey, I was a good basketball player. If I learned to be a good basketball player, I can do this. Some of you, maybe you didn't play sports, but you can say, hey, if I'm a good mom, I can do this. If I learn if I learn to do my job, I can learn to do this. Because ultimately, it's the skills, right? It's skills. So if I do this, I can do. If you were able to convince someone to eat dinner somewhere, that I could convince. I was able to convince my friend who doesn't like Japanese food to try to eat raw fish, sushi. Then I can convince someone to do this. You find reasons why you can be successful. Most people, they fail because you can make it easy, come up with 20 reasons why this is not going to work, but they struggle to come up with even 5 reasons why this is going to work. And you got to maybe lie to yourself. But you know what? If you say, I'm not going to be successful, is that true? That's not true. If you say, well, these are 10 reasons I'm going to be successful, is that true? That's also not true. But if you're going to lie to yourself, you might as well lie to thinking positive, because negativity, people say, oh, Simon, you're so positive. That stuff doesn't work. I'll tell you, positivity does not guarantee success, but negativity guarantees failure. So if you're going to think, you might as well think positive. And the reality is none of us know. And here's another thing is, in every entrepreneur, where they want to take things to the next level, no one really knows what they're doing, right? And they all have to go outside the comfort zone. Elon Musk, what he's doing Twitter, he doesn't really, deep down, he doesn't really know what's going to happen, but he's got to have confidence, right? Mark Zuckerberg leading Meta, Facebook, he doesn't really have he doesn't really know exactly. None of us have a crystal ball, but they have a vision and they have that confidence. Hey, even being on this show, right before that, I was trying to take a nap, my morning nap. I didn't know how this is going to work, but I'm just going to go out and do it. I didn't know I didn't even know what questions you're going to ask me. I was like, John, whatever, right? But you got to have that faith and come up with reasons why you will make it. And when you come up with reasons why you will make it, and success is your destiny, then you will show up. You will stay consistent. Right now, if you don't have that, you say, oh, I have doubt. I don't know if this is going to work. Then like, oh my, then you can start thinking, if this is not going to work, then why should be going through this process, which is boring? Why should I talk to someone? They're going to say no anyway. I'm going to fail anyway. And then maybe I'm wasting my time. Maybe I shouldn't do this. Maybe I should think of something else, right? So all the excuses or the reasons why you're not consistent, why you're not putting time, all comes back to your vision. How you see yourself. Be that leader. So there are times when I did it like, midnight. I definitely didn't want to make those phone calls. I'm tired of saying I was prospecting the US for a lot, then go prospect. I'm like, but I think I'm a leader. What would a leader do? I envisioned the top leaders of my company. What would they do? Hey, they'll make that call. Well, Simon, are you a leader? Yeah, I'm a leader. So I will make that call. Mm-hmm. I didn't want to do that presentation because I've never done a sales presentation before. Well, I went out there and did it anyway. Because what would a leader do? They'll do that. So for takeaway for you all is, number one, everyone says copy what leaders do. Don't just copy what leaders do. More importantly, copy how leaders think. How do they think? When they're in a situation where they don't feel like doing something, what's going on in their mind? Copy that thinking patterns and their mindset.
A lot of, you just said a lot of stuff here. Let me add a couple things. One is because, as you know, my background is all wrestling, judo, jiu-jitsu, sambo, which is Russian wrestling. And I think my 2 great senseis have now passed away. Okay. Sensei Tamura a number of years ago, Sensei Abasawara just recently. And both of those men taught me so much on the mat. Okay. But they taught me how to think off the mat. They prepared me for the other things in my life beyond judo, for example. But I think about Tamura, and something you said struck a nerve. And Sensei Tamura and I would meet Tuesday and Thursday mornings here in Dallas. I was already an adult. I was in my 30s, and I started to play again. I'd given up for a number of years when I was running sales here for a company in Dallas and got back to. But we would spend an hour plus 2 days a week just on where I would put my left hand on the gi of my opponent for a certain move called a makakomi. If you speak Japanese, you know what a makakomi is. Anyway, most people don't. It's basically a shoulder throw. Anyway, we would spend that time, and boring, redundant, boring for him, certainly, boring for me. But all of a sudden, I had 19 people in 1 year that I threw with that technique. 19. And it was just the differentiation of moving my hand up above the elbow rather than below the elbow, so I would get the grip right. Now, what's the point of that for our listeners? How do you apply that to network marketing? I was weak in that area in terms of where I gripped, and he corrected it. What if you're weak, and I love your response to this, what if you're weak on your product? What if your core product, you don't really understand everything that scientifically validates it, that gives you the reason why your customer or new distributor should get on the product and get on auto ship, for example? Okay. What if you're weak on the compensation plan and you say, ooh, God, I hate when somebody says to me, how do I make $1,000 a month part-time? And I can't tell them because I don't study my compensation plan. Okay, as two examples, right? And there's other things we can be weak on or deficient in network marketing. But to me, those are the two deficiencies I see. I see some people that are really great with product. They know everything, like, our product, for example, 47 years of science, and they can tell you where the two key scientists went to high school. And that's great. But somebody says, hey, I need to make $1,000 a month because my gas bill's up, my electric bill's up, everything else has gone up the last couple of years financially. How do I need to make $1,000? And they can't answer that. They dance around it. Or vice versa. They can show compensation models till you're blue in the face, but they say, well, what about the product? I don't worry about the product. And the person says, well, I got a problem with that because that's an integrity issue, because especially with nutritional supplements, which most of us sell in this industry, some form of, I'm putting it in my body. I want my family to put it in their body. I want my friends to put it in their body. You need to know about the product. How do you address that? So they identify where they're deficient and they get that consistency that we've talked about already, so that they learn where they're weak so they can become strong.
I love that question because that's a big problem nowadays. There's two types of personal development, because I think now it's a curse. There's so much great trainings out there, right? Like such as this podcast, and there's great stuff on YouTube. There's great stuff on TikTok. There's great stuff on Instagram. And most people, there's two types of personal development: is just in time. They're like, oh, awesome! I need to go through that right now. And the other one is like, that's awesome, but let me save that for later. Okay, so I'll give an example. Is if you are weak in product training, you can, if you see a training about products, that's a just in time. Oh, I need that right now. I need to go deep in that. But you just say you're weak in product training and you need to work on getting more customers, and you see this other thing about using AI to generate content. That's a great training, but that's saved for later training, because we have limited time. And I made this mistake all the time. I learned it later on. My first couple of years, how I got good at prospecting, even though I was bad, was the focus. And then I kind of lost focus. And then the last 7-8 years, I got back into focus, right? So when I first started, I sucked at selling. And let's not joke around. You have to sell, right? You have to sell yourself. You have to sell the products. You have to sell the business. I never learned anything about selling. So what I did was, when I started to invest in myself, my first year, by the way, the first thing I ever invested in myself was Zig Ziglar's Selling 101. And it wasn't because it was the best book. It was because it was the cheapest book. Okay. And at that time, I could spend $15, $30 on drinks at a bar or at a lounge, $100 going out, but I couldn't spend more than $15 on a book. Okay. That was my mindset back then. But that book was like $8.97. It was the cheapest book. All right, I bought that one. But then I realized that I want to get good at something. You got to go intense focus. Like, I love the story about your sensei. You spend an hour just on that throw, just on the finger, right? It's most people, they do everything. They don't do like, oh, what's your position? How do you do the toss? How do you work out your legs? No, you don't get good at that. You go good at the intense focus. So what I did was, and that, I think back to basketball, how I became a decent basketball player was because I had broken my wrist, and that for that summer, I love basketball, and I broke my right wrist. All I did was work on my left hand because I still wanted to play. And I actually would play just from fooling around with my friends. I play one-handed, catching with my left hand. And just by doing that, I got really good with the left hand. And the secret is It's not a secret anymore. Like back then, one-on-one, I'm a righty, I shoot righty, but I always love to drive left, right? Because I have a good left hand, and I also messed up my ankle, so I couldn't jump off my left. I would jump off my right, and that makes you go drive left. So most players would not, they just play, pick up, or they're not good. They don't realize that, hey, you're a righty, let them go left. And I was like, thank you, let me go left, because I actually go left better than going right. So that was something like, but those intense focus on my left hand. Most people don't have that intense focus. It's like, you need a product knowledge. I'll go. I attend a product training. Great. And then you're learning about different things. No, go and listen to every training out there. Get a book on how to sell products and get good at it. Go read the scientific, study. And so I'll share two examples. When I first got started, I sucked at selling. So after I got the Zig Ziglar book, my mindset slowly changed because I started applying. I was like, I'm getting results there. I became addicted. I went to Amazon, put every single book on sales. Whether it was Jeffrey Gitterman, and some of them had nothing to do with network marketing. Tom Hopkins, how to sell real estate, Zig Ziglar's Secrets to Closing the Sale, Jeffrey Gitterman's. I put every single book on sale, and I read them. And I got really good at it. And then I didn't learn about all this stuff. I just got really good. And later on, it was about online marketing. I focused on that one at a time. Then years later, I've always been good at leading with the business, but I wasn't good like with the products. How come I can't get a customer? Well, because my product knowledge sucked. It was terrible. So I got focused. I got really good. I read these boring scientific books about the cells and why. And then once I started doing that, I gave it 3-4 months of studying about products. I got good at selling products. So it goes back to that intense focus, right? If you find the area you're weak on, instead of going broad, go deep. And nowadays, speaking of training, my son takes lessons. Well, actually, I'm setting up a lesson for him tomorrow. But how I can tell whether a coach is good is how intense are they? Do they cover everything, or do they focus on one thing? Like, so 2 months ago, my son is pretty fast, but we're working on even getting faster. So this guy recommended this guy, Chase Darnot. His brother is the catcher on the Braves. His brother's Darnot, right? Travis Darnot, right? So his older brother actually played in the MLB for 6 years and now does speed training. So this is why I know he was good. He did an hour lesson. He spent 50 minutes on the first 3 steps that you take launching off the base, getting out of the box. Just maybe the first 5 steps. Boom, boom, boom. Right? And it's not like, oh, go run. This is what do your arms. So maybe the last 5-10 minutes you talk about arm swing. But the first 50 minutes was on the first 3 to 5 steps, how to push off. All right, this guy's good. Right? So again, going back to how you apply that, find out your weakness and go deep in that area. Don't just, I got to train. No. And deep means you may have to spend the next 3 to 6 months. All your personal development is focused on that weakness. And then within 6 months, you're going to get good at it.
Yeah, you mentioned Tom Hopkins. I met Tom years ago. I was a kid. I was early 20s. And he did a seminar in New Jersey, and I went to it. And like you say about like the money, like, $8.97 for the Zig book, it was the same thing. It was like I had a limit on what I would spend. And I don't remember what it was. It was probably $50 back then or something. But I remember, okay, I can afford that. And this guy's a legend in real estate sales. And I figured I can learn something from him, right? And I was doing network marketing, but I was also doing insurance at the time. So I went to see him, and ironically, he comes walking down the hall. And I said, Mr. Hopkins, honored to meet you. And of course, this is pre-cell phone days, so I didn't get a picture, of course, but way back. But I'll never forget what Tom told me. He took out his business card, he flipped it over, he wrote on the back, do what you fear most. And what you just said there, not only mentioned Tom, but also what you just said there, right? Some of us think, boy, I'm really, really good with compensation. I can teach compensation until the cows come home. Well, what if the person sitting in front of you has a health issue and they need your product, and that's why they're in front of you, and that's why that's where their receptors are in their ears. That's what they're listening for, is how's this product going to help me, whatever, lose weight, gain energy, build my immune system, whatever it happens to be that they're listening for. And conversely, and especially now because of the circumstances we're living in, and it'll lead me to my next question here, Simon. If the person's sitting there saying, hey, when I look at all of my bills, across the board that come in on a monthly basis, with the inflation that's taken place over the last year or two, I'm probably paying about $1,000 more a month to live than I was, when you look at the staples, your groceries, your gasoline, your utilities, etc. So they say, how do I make up that difference? I've already got a job. They're not going to give me another $1,000 a month to teach school, drive a truck, be a plumber, whatever. They're not going to give me that, at my 40-hour a week thing. So this part-time side hustle, this part-time gig that I have, I need to figure out how to make $1,000 a month. Okay. Well, that person, you better understand the compensation plan, because they're going to ask you for their marching orders when that meeting's done. Okay, what do I do? How many customers do I need? How many people do I need to get into the business? Give me a model to work off of. Okay, so with that said, okay, we've got about 15 minutes. I know you're up against another meeting here at the top of the hour. So let me ask you this question. This show's going to air on November 14th. So we're doing it prior, everybody. In case it's no secret, we do pre-record these things because Simon and I both know things could go wrong on broadcast. Sometimes you got to fix stuff. Not with Simon. Simon's so easy. But I'd love you to talk about, as you get to year end, how do you plan next year in terms of your business life? How do you plan and create goals for yourself, for your team, the people that assist you with all of your speaking and everything else that you're doing? How do you prepare? And conversely, how should our listeners prepare for 2024?
Well, before we think about 2024, you got to finish 2023 on a great note. So if you're listening to this on November 14th or whatever, know that the last month of the business is a great time to build your business. Okay. I'll share something I did all the time. And of course you have custom, you have Black Friday sales and the buying products as gifts that you should all know. That's a gimme, right? You kind of know that already. Your leads are telling you that already. But also know that people are in the buying mood, right? Like they're buying, right? It's like if you're used to buying, then you spend a lot of money on the credit card, then go spend a little bit more, right? But January often is a lot harder because January they're paying for the credit card bills. So if they're in the buying mood, it's easy to get people to buy a little bit more. Okay. People are open and it's almost like acceptable. They're spending money in November and December. So make sure you push for those customer sales. Number two is think like an entrepreneur too. Like for consumers, they think, oh, we're buying gifts and holiday mood. Companies, entrepreneurs, the last quarter is the most important quarter of the year. Right, that's when the holiday sales. So think like an entrepreneur. Don't take off. If you're thinking, holidays, parties, no, you're thinking like a consumer. You're thinking like the masses. You're not thinking like an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur, those are the most critical months of the year. So go and work hard, double down your time in focusing on your business. Last thing is, for many countries, America is definitely one of them, your investment to the business can be a tax write-off. Right. So I used to say, would you rather get it if prospect is interested, but they think, oh, I need to think about it, but let me wait to January. If you wait to January, the person's never going to join because all the money, we all know everyone has the money, but the perception of the money is always going to be spent on holiday shopping. You have no money to join in January. So you have to create that urgency to sign them up. And you say, would you like a tax rebate? Your initial investment. So John, if you're a prospect, I'll say, well, your initial investment is tax deductible, right? He's like, yeah. Well, would you like to get a tax rebate in 3 months, or would you rather wait for 15 months? Right? Well, you probably say 3 months. Well, 3 months. That's why, even though you may be busy with the holidays, get started right now. Just start in December, because then you can file. You can claim this for 2023. If you get started in January, then yeah, you can. This is still a write-off, but doesn't count for 2023. It counts for 2024, and you won't get that rebate back until the next year. So can I get you started right now to save you some money? Right. So let's get you. I use that all the time, and I've got a lot of people that are on the fence that were interested, but they were distracted because the holidays. I got them on the fence like that. So that is something you can use. Again, I'm not your tax advisor, whatever, but that's something I use to close sales. Now, how to plan for 2024 is, first of all, you can't plan until you take a recap of 2023. Think about what are some of the wins you've had, right? What are 10 wins you've had, things you did well, and what are 10, 20 things you need improvements on, right? And when you do that, then you can have a better idea how much you've grown and also what areas you need to get better in. All your dreams and goals are outside your comfort zone. So when you think about what you need to be better at, you need to do things that you probably don't like to do. You should do, but are not doing it. And I think if you're listening to this podcast, you already know what you need to do, but you're not doing it, right? You're listening to this for inspiration, for nuggets or aha moments, but you kind of know, and you can apply these aha moments to your business, but you got to think about what things you need to get better, and then you can plan ahead. And we all like to set income goals, but without setting the income goal, before you set the income goal, create an activity, work backwards, right? Going back to know your compensation plan. So if you say, I want to make 50,000 in, this is a common one, right? I want to make 10, person's earning zero. I want to earn 10,000 a month in 6 months. The person has no idea what you need to do. Like, what's the sales volume to earn 10,000 a month? Okay, so by the end of the year, what's the sales volume, right? For that sales volume, how many is normally coming from customers, and how many coming from new distributors generally? And you probably have no clue to that question, and every company is different. Like, I wouldn't know for your company. So go ask your top leaders who are earning 10,000 a month. So if you're earning 10,000 a month, the volume, you may have to sell 100,000 or $50,000 worth of products. How many of this coming from customers? How many come from signups? Okay, so maybe out of the 10,000, I have 100 customers a month, and the other 50 are coming from new signups. Okay, so every month to make 10,000 a month, you get 100 customers and 50 new signups in your team. So now you have a goal, right? Okay, 100. I'm gonna get 100 customers and 50 signups. Now you yourself, just say you're new, you're not gonna get 100 because we have limited time. You're not gonna have time to sign up 100 people, get 50 customers. So think of, well, how big is your team? Those people who have earning 10,000. How'd you build your team? Ask 5 leaders. Oh, you have, and again, every company is different. So you have 300 people, or you have 50 distributors, you have 100, and then you take an average. So maybe the average person they have 100 downlines, active downlines building. Then you can work backwards. Like, okay, if I get 100 active downlines and right now 0, I need to add 100 people next year by December. And that doesn't even factor attrition. So then you can set a goal. If I sign up 10 people a month, then I can, 10 people a month, that'll be 120, and 20 will quit. By the end of the year, I will have a team of 100. So if I sign up 10 people a month, how many presentations do you need to do to get that? Well, you may have to do 100 presentations a month. Then after 100 presentations, well, how many people do you actually talk to get 100 people a month? Well, a lot of people may not even be interested, right? You may have to talk to 1 out of 10. 1 out of 10, because 9 will say no, 1 will be interested. So you need to reach out to 1,000 people a month to get 100 presentations, to get 10 signups. And then you work to that, and you go, wow, Simon, that's incredible. I can't do that. Well, if you can't do that, then that goal is unrealistic, right? So you can reach that goal in 2 years, 3 years. So you work the numbers backwards. Most people set a goal just out of emotion and inspiration, but they have no clue what they actually have to do. And then you're going to be, Simon doesn't discouraged. Again, work on baby steps. How about just say, reach out to 20 people this week and get 10 presentations, right? Or reach out to 100 people this week and get 10 and get 5 presentations. Work the numbers backwards, what's doable for you. And then you say, by the end of the year, I'm going to hit this. Anyway, set activity goals, right? Not just results goals. Most people set a result goal, but they have no clue what the activity is. And then when they're not getting results, they say, this business doesn't work. No, it does work. You just didn't know what you needed to do. So be clear on the goal and what specific activities you need.
It's amazing that you say that, because years ago, my segue out of multi-level part-time was in the insurance business. This was in 1985, 86, and part of 87. And I went back, and my first year in selling life insurance made over $100,000, which was remarkable, by the way. 1987, that was 1985, 86. That was a huge number, even in that business, right? And I went back, and we've been going through boxes in the garage of stuff. Some stuff I've been posting on Facebook that you might have seen, and a lot of stuff we're throwing out. But I found my old day timer, right? The old days, before phones, folks, we had these things called day timers. We had to write down appointments, sign in at 1 o'clock, this person at 2 o'clock, etc. And anyway, long story short, I went back and I looked at how many appointments I had per day to make that money. And over a 12-month period, I averaged 3 live appointments a day, and it generated that much income. So, the results of anything, network marketing wise or any other business, is, to your point, activity. So we got about 5 minutes left, Simon, if you can here. I know you're up against another appointment. So let me just do some rapid fire stuff. Okay.
I want to add one more thing. You can tell how successful a person is by looking at the calendar. So even if I didn't know you were successful, I looked at, hey, let me look at your day timer, and you filled with meetings. Oh, this guy, John, probably did pretty well. Right. If I don't know you, I look at your calendar. What do you have tomorrow? What do you have on Friday? Oh, blank. Oh, you're probably struggling in the business.
I get to distributors all the time in my own company and others tell me, "Oh, what do you got tomorrow? Nothing." How can you have nothing? How can you build a business with nothing? You have nobody to talk to. There's your next door neighbor on your product, etc. Anyway, I've ran broad. Let me ask you a couple rapid fire questions. Okay, what was the number one thing Robert Allen taught you?
Number one thing, there's different type of resources. Right? I used to think resources was when I was younger, money's resources. No, he says your time is a resource. Also, your network, your contacts are a resource. So if you have no money, but you have a good network, you can find ways to make things happen. If you have no network, but you have money, you can go join country clubs and build a network, right? Or go find places. If you have no time, you have money, you can get people to do things for you. So I think those are the three things. Told me that's the most important thing. Like I never saw time and never saw my network as a resource.
Okay. MLM Nation. How do people listen, shows, et cetera, et cetera? Anything you want to share on MLM Nation?
I just go to mlmnation.com or whatever podcast player. Also, we're on YouTube. Follow us on YouTube. Just search MLM Nation. You see us.
Consistency Pill book. Where did they get it?
Amazon. You just go to consistencypill.com. We'll just go to Amazon. You see it.
Who's going to win the World Series? Because by the time this airs, it'll be over.
Ooh.
Yeah, we know the Yankees aren't going to be there, unfortunately.
Good. Well, I predict the Yankees will finish above 500. Okay.
Yeah.
Who's going to win the World Series? That is a great question. I don't believe the Dodgers will, because they always seem to choke. I think the Braves will win. Braves.
Yeah, I could go for that. Yeah, I could see that. I'd love to see it be a dark horse. I'd love to see like the Cubs or somebody hop in there. And I've actually been following the Rangers a little bit. I'm a Yankee fan. It's like they're a kind of exciting young club, but without Scherzer, they're gonna have a hard time. But anyway, who knows on that? Okay. So last thing, Simon, tell these people how to get to work and make a difference, not only in their lives, but to see the big picture and how they can impact other people's lives. What's your number one piece of advice for them?
Where do you see yourself? Ask yourself, where do you see yourself 10 years from now? What type of leader are you? Who are the leaders? Who are the people you've impacted? How much money you make? Close your eyes and see that. What type of house you're living in? What type of family life you have? What type of cars you're driving? Who are you? What type of person are you? Are you afraid of things? Or are you bold? Or you get outside your comfort zone? Where would you like your future self to be? And once you're clear on that, you wrote it down, start acting like a future self today. Great. And then you'll be amazed at what happens.
Great. Well, Simon, I want to thank you as always, my friend, and fit me in your schedule. I know your schedule is intense between your business and baseball and the family and everything else. So thank you again, buddy.
Hey, it's an honor to be here. Thank you, everyone. You can look forward to connecting with everyone on social media. And don't forget, we're in the profession to help others. So go out there and have a positive impact on someone's life. God bless you all.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Leave Nothing to Chance. If you want to know more about what it takes to succeed in the network marketing space, join us again next week for another amazing episode. For additional resources and to connect with John Soliter, visit leavingnothingtochance.com. Don't forget to leave a review, and we'll see you next time.